Welcome to SEPSA Talk. I am Evan Sapia Kisi, the host of SEPSA Talk. SEPSA is Center for Better Society Advocacy and Research Africa. SEPSA Africa is a non-profit organization that believes in a better society for all. We in SEPSA Africa believe that a better society begins with you and I. Hashtag, a better society begins with me. For more information, please log on to www.sepsaafrica.org. Please follow us on the various social media platforms: YouTube, SEPSA Talk, Facebook at SEPSA Africa, Instagram, SEPSA Africa, and Twitter at SEPSA Africa. And like always, today we bring you another interesting discussion on the topic, redefining the paradigms in African leadership. I would be hosting this program with Mr. Edmond Yeboah, who would later introduce our guest for today. But I must say this, I would like to begin with a quote from John Calvin Maxwell, who is an American author, speaker, and also a pastor, and he has written so many books focusing on leadership. And he says, the pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The leader adjusts the sails. End of quote. And so today we ask the question, what do you make of the African leadership we have today? Do the current leaders in Africa pass the leadership test? Do they inspire you? Do they empower you, or do they encourage hope in you? And to help us understand the African leader and redefine the paradigms in African leadership is our own Professor Enoch Opoku-Antwi. Edmond, over to you.
Can you share the next slide? So we have today with us Professor Enoch Opoku-Antwi, our very own Professor Enoch, because he has been with us on numerous occasions and shared profound insights. So we thought it well that why not give him a whole show so that he can tell us what he does best, because he's an associate professor of leadership and management at the Viterbo University, La Crosse, Wisconsin. He's also a leadership consultant, author, and a civic educationist. He has his PhD in business organizational leadership from Indiana Wesleyan University in Indiana, USA, and he holds MSc in business organizational leadership at Mount St. Joseph University in Cincinnati, Ohio, USA. He also has a BD in psychology from the University of Cape Coast, Ghana. Welcome, Professor Enoch Opoku-Antwi.
Thank you very much, Edmond. How are you today?
We're doing very well.
Great. And so
we thank God for that. And Evans,
yeah, sure.
Greetings to you from here, from Ghana, the motherland.
Yeah, good to know that. How is Ghana treating you, by the way?
Ghana is beautiful. I mean, good food, good neighbors, good relationship with everybody, and you don't feel like an outlier. You fit in everywhere you go. So this is home.
This is interesting. A.K. Mensah would say home is where the heart is. I don't know whether he agrees on that. But generally, thank you very much for your time. And thank you also, Edmond, for doing this with me. And also thanks to A.K. Mensah, who is producing the show. We are streaming live on Facebook. And so if you are just joining us, please, this is SEPSA Talk. And today we are hosting our own Professor Opoku-Antwi. Those of you joining us also here on Zoom, thank you. And don't forget to keep your questions coming. So, Prof, I would like to start first before I hand over to Edmond to continue. I think people have been wondering, what is leadership? How do you define leadership? And particularly, how do you define, or who is a true leader? So how do you define leadership and who is a true leader?
Thank you very much. Let me say greetings to all your listeners and your viewers all over the world. I enjoy always being on Sesta Talk because we talk about issues of common interest and importance. When we say leadership, a lot of definitions have been put out there as leadership. One word defines leadership: influence. Influence. So Peter Northouse said that a leader is an individual who influences another individual or a group of people to achieve a common goal. So if you are a leader, you influence people positively to achieve a common goal for the people. That's your job. Now, Thompson also defined leadership interesting. He said that leadership is character in action. And I like that definition a lot. It means that if you're a leader, your character shows. And the action of your character in who you appoint, who you lead, what you do every day makes you a leader. So a couple of things: values, because I know we talk about values, but values are keyword. It's just a word that I will use to replace influence. Because if you're a leader and you don't have values, it means that you are leading the people astray. So values, I'm talking about respect, patience, excellence, and integrity. If you have these values, then your character will be in action and people will see positive results.
So thank you very much. And if I got you right, you mean you summed it up as influence and values. And
Yes.
my follow-up question would be, is values not broad in a sense? Can we narrow it down a little bit? What sort of values are we talking about here?
Yes, when we talk about values, it means what you exhibit, everything that you exhibit. So I mentioned 4 of them. Respect. If you're a leader, you need to respect everybody because you are just a servant to the people. One of the things that I'm an expert in is servant leadership, serving first and leading second. So patience is one of them and respect is one of them. The reason why respect is important, we all know that respect is reciprocal. A leader, you are not there by yourself. People voted for you or somebody nominated you to be the leader. And because of that, you are holding that position in trust for the people. You are a steward. A steward holds position in trust. It means that one day you will give account of your stewardship. And because of that, you need to respect the people that gave you the power, because power is transient. The other one is patient. If you are a leader, one of the most important things is that your demeanor, both verbal and non-verbal, to show that you have patience to deal with the issues at stake. Because people are people, people have different expectations, and you need to have the patience to listen to everybody, because listening is also one of the keys of leadership. Excellence is you should always look to be the best. If you are mediocre, or you don't look for the best for yourself and your people, then you are not a leader. And then integrity is everything. Integrity, what you do at home where nobody's watching, and what you do outside really are values that keeps a country or even a leader in a group at home. So if you talk about America, they have their values. If you talk about Britain, Germany, they all have their values. But when you come to Africa, our values are lacking. And I keep saying since I came here that we worry Jesus too much. Everything have to go to Jesus. Everything have to go to Jesus. I think God has done his part. It's up to us to also do our part to make the country a better place for all of us.
So thank you very much for pointing that out, the values that a leader should have. And that sort of drives us into our next question to ask, are these straight nature-born talent, or these are things that we can learn through education and observation?
Thank you very much. We had a great man theory. We began leadership with the great man theory, where people thought that leaders were born. But we've come a long way. We know about different kind of leaders. We have transactional leaders, we have transformational leaders, we have authentic leaders, we even have foolish leaders now. where smart people do stupid things. And one example is Bill Clinton, where he knew about Monica Lewinsky's issue, the consequence of what will happen, but he went ahead and did it. So there are many theories out there about leadership. But the most important thing is that we learn to be leaders now, because leadership is now relational. From the great man theory, where people thought leaders were born, to the modern time where we have servant leaders and transformational leaders. The bottom line is simple. You can learn to be a leader because we have different talents. So I started with values. So if you have respect, you can learn to respect people. You can learn to be patient. You can learn to be excellent in whatever you do. You can learn integrity. And in doing that, your decision-making will be based on these patience and respect and integrity and all those. And it is easy for others to follow you because it gives you the foresight, which improves your current and your future decision-making.
Thank you very much. So that's the basis of the discussion today for all of us to understand that, of course, there are theories that says people are born with some innate values. However, we can all learn to be good leaders. Is that what you just said?
Yes. So people compare Ronaldo to Messi, right? Messi have that kind of natural talent. Ronaldo learned, and he's still comparable with Messi. It depends on which way you want to argue. So yes, some people have the talent, but they became lazy. They did not develop it. The one who commits to developing that talent or learn to be a good leader can be better than the one who have the skills and the talent, but is lazy and is not improving.
Thank you very much. I hand over to Evans.
Interesting. I wanted to pick your thoughts also. I've listened to you once on UTV, if I'm allowed to mention that. And I think on the panel, most of them disagreed with you when you said leadership is something that is learned. Leadership is supposed to be taught.
Yes.
Why do you come to that conclusion? Because for most of these people who were on the panel, they said that no, leadership is not something that you teach.
Well, they are not leadership experts, so you can pardon them. Definitely, if somebody about your field and you are an expert in the field, if people don't know anything, I remember one time I called in on UTV and I talked about wisdom that we teach. And somebody said, a lawyer said that, no, you are born of wisdom. Yes, you have some wisdom, but we teach wisdom models as investors. There's a course that Steve Jobs did in college. And when he did that course, people thought that it's a waste of time. You know what he applied the course to do? The font size that we have on Macintosh computers. You have font 12, font 14, 16. He introduced that with the course. So if people think that anything, you cannot learn it, you can learn any behaviors. Yes, wisdom, even wisdom. We know the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, right? But we teach wisdom models as investors that people use to apply at workplace, and it works perfectly for them. So leaders are not born. Yes, you can say that, some people think that is 16th century idea from Machiavelli. That, The Prince, anybody who have read that book, The Prince, you will know that Machiavelli talks about how to dress in a way, how to carry yourself in public, but in private, you can do whatever you want. That's not leadership. So people are grown to be kings and, this is how you have to walk. That's not leadership. In fact, real leader is the one who serves. And anybody who don't understand servant leadership will think that leaders are born. Well, it takes humility to serve. How many investors teaches humility, how to be humble? We teach people how to be humble. We teach people how to listen and listen well. All these are taught at investors. And that is our job. So pick a course with us, either an undergrad or a grad studies. We teach leaders, and we have many doctors, medical doctors, we have nurses, we have lawyers, we have a lot of people taking our master's program. We have 3 professors, and they're all distinguished professors. Tom Thibodeau, Rick Kite, and myself. We teach the only master's program in America, the entire country of over 5,000 universities in servant leadership.
All right. So I wanted to ask you something that you said when you talked about values, and you mentioned 4 key characteristics: respect, patience, excellence, and integrity. And then you went ahead to say that America has values.
Yes.
United Kingdom have values, but Africans have values. And I was wondering, these 4 key characteristics, they are not peculiar to any group of people. So on what
Yes, they have values, but how you espouse them.
Okay.
See how you espouse them. Yes, you have food and the food can sit down. If you don't eat it, you still go hungry, right? So yes, we have our values, but the values of wrong and right is where the problem is. So I saw a video that is just trending. Somebody saying that in Ghana, the wrong is right and the right is wrong. You're driving on the right way, somebody crosses you, you have to, another person is driving on the pavement to come close to you. You tell that person that this is wrong. What does he do in turn? He insults you, right? Where in life values.
So, I mean,
yeah,
it's a bit difficult now for me to ask this question, but so generally, how would you assess the leadership and governance on the continent as we see? I guess, I mean, some are doing well, right? What's your general assessment so far?
I think we can do more. Smart leadership is what is missing. And everywhere that I go, I point to smart leadership. That is missing. We need to be more proactive. But we are using ad hoc measures in solving long-term problems, and that is where we are lacking. The other thing is that integrated and coordinated set of commitment is also lacking from leadership and followership. We don't get together and coordinate together in solving our peculiar problems. So I go back to what I talked about. Values leads our decisions. And let's say you are a leader and you want to communicate an issue to people. One of the values is not to lie, tell the truth. So every decision that you are making, at the back of your mind, because you begin with the end in mind. I am going to tell the truth. The economy is this. This is where I want to take the country to. Where can we all contribute to make it a better place for all of us? But when people see that you say we should tighten our belt and your belt is loosened, then Houston, we have a problem. Then integrity comes in, because integrity is a critical quality of leadership. It builds trust. And trust is a glue that holds our relationship together. Because without trust, there's no relationship with the people. The people should trust you, and they can always trust you when you have that kind of integrity with them. So I can see that in Africa, there's a lot of the youth pushing back on their leaders. It means that integrity is lacking now. And what do we do to fix it? Because it is very important in leadership and followership. And when we have the integrity, we do what is right. So the question that we should all answer is, are our leaders doing what is right for our people? It depends, again, the political party you belong to and where you're coming from. And I've seen that the commitment to our country in Africa is lacking. People are committed more to their political parties than the country. But that is wrong, because without the country, you don't have any identity. You don't have a political party. So I would love to see people committing themselves more to the country. Fight for your country. Don't fight for your political party.
True. And I wanted to ask you this, but I also feel that before I allow Edmond in, what do you actually mean by smart leadership, if you could explain it further? But
smart leadership, the best way to solve a problem is to foresee it before it becomes a problem. So we see that our roads are bad. In Africa, less than 10% of our roads are fixed. And that's bad, right? Because I've said in another platform that there's no way you can build private goods without having a public good. And this is what it means. The public good of roads, hospitals, schools, park system, these are public goods that governments should do it. And governments or governance is not that difficult. People vote for you, collect taxes. You don't owe cocoa farm. You don't owe any farming. Just collect taxes from them and use the money to do well for the people. That shouldn't be hard. I hope you are trying to understand me. When you are in governance, there's an election, people vote for you. All you have to do is find an efficient way to collect money from them and use the money for roads, transportation, housing, schools and hospitals and parks. That shouldn't be difficult. So you come with a plan. This is my plan to collect taxes. And based on that, I can use it to do A, B, or C. So let me give you an example. The Sector Minister for Road and Transport. I've seen somebody's picture here, but I don't know that person. on the screen. But there is a minister, on the road sector who says that if we want to build all our roads, I need 18 billion dollars. So let me ask you, do you believe that? We go to leadership. You need $18 billion to fix all roads in Ghana. Currently, we have less than 20% of our roads fixed. So 80% have not been fixed. But we are being told that the government owes contractors $8 billion. So if you owe contractors $8 billion and less than 20% of the road have been fixed, it means that if we give you the 10 billion, you still cannot finish even 40 or 50%. That is discerning. And right. In leadership, you discern about some of these things to help you in training, in talent development, and then you can use the content and then your expectation to reach excellence.
All right, before I allow Edmond, I think there's a question here on Zoom that perhaps fits into the question that I asked earlier on. I read, can Africa redefine her leadership purpose based on value systems, which will ensure the safety and well-being of all and not a few? What is the role of I think I'll come to that, but I mean, just that first part of the question. Can Africa redefine her leadership purpose based on value systems?
Yes, the people decide. A leader who has values that they want to lead. Like I said that Jeff Thompson said that leadership is character in action. So every leader that you elect comes with a different character. So look for people with integrity. Look for people who are always looking for excellence. Look for leaders who have patience. Look for leaders who respect the followers, that they will come and tell you the truth and they will do the right thing. That is how you redefine leadership. Because every leader, yes, Mahama has his own style. Kufuor has his own style. Kufuor had his own style. Nkrumah had his own style. Jomo Kenyatta had his own style. Babangida had his own style. Rawlings had his own style. These are different people. So in electing leaders, look for people whose character in action will exhibit respect, patience, excellence, integrity, and values.
But Prof, I mean, Edmond, sorry, but if you say this, then I get the impression that you're putting, like we say, the burden of proof now on citizens, on electorates.
Yes.
But when I know that most electorates, I mean, no disrespect, but do not also vote on these values. So then it would be like we cannot hold leaders accountable. So we are a reflection of the leadership that we have. But what about the leaders themselves? Can't they?
So what happened to change about the followers not voting on values? They can. Is it difficult to pick people among you that this man is very respectful, he's very honest, we know him in the community and we want the person to be our leaders? What is too hard about that?
Edmond.
Well, very interesting. And my first question is a follow-up to what you said about smart leadership. I was just thinking, can you name a few leaders in Africa which you would call smart? They should not be present. I mean, old, dead and gone, but I just want to have just a picture of who these.
Okay, Mandela was a smart leader.
Mm-hmm.
At the time of his inauguration in 1994, he said that his heroes are his jailers, people who put him in jail. He saw that the country was polarized, divided among black and whites. 15% of the population were white. Botha and his people built South Africa. So anytime I go to leadership conferences, they will tell me, show us any model African country that has been successful. And they will follow up by saying that, don't tell us South Africa because we built it.
Mm.
So which country in Africa has been built by blacks and is successful? That's the question they ask me.
And what do you say?
Yes, Mandela was a smart leader. And everywhere you go, people mention his name. You can never mention good leaders look at his funeral, what happened? Mm. Everywhere in the world, leader was there. Why? Because he united his people and taught them forgiveness. He reconciled his people. He realized that we are polarized. Well, I'm forgiving all my jailers and people who put me in jail for 27 years. But after that, let's reconcile and build our country together. And what did he do? After 4 years, he could have run for another 4 years. He said, no, I have demonstrated leadership. Thabo Mbeki should continue.
Mm.
smart leadership. Now let's come back to Rwanda and see what is happening there. Kagame, is it not the cleanest city, that he's been building? Look at the bicycles in town that you can just go use your app, pick a bicycle and ride in town. Look at their roads. Even in the gutter, you can eat. Is that not smart leadership? So we see these things, but we ignore them as if we don't see them. And come look at our gutters. The gutters here, even slabs that covers these gutters have broken, and there are holes on the road everywhere that cars can fall into, and everybody's watching. Nobody's paying attention. The leaders should drive around. Sometimes, I was driving through the Gimpa Road, and it's through darkness. I complained on UTV before, I think 2 days after, somebody hits a moving vehicle with a rock. The person got hurt before the police and everybody went there. So our leaders not climb these routes. Don't they see that all of them don't have street lights? Smart leadership is when you anticipate that this can happen, or this can cause problem, or this can hurt life, and then you fix it. Look at our gadgets. Look at even our roads, the potholes. People swerving potholes causes accident every day. Don't you talk about that? Who is fixing them?
So if I get what you are saying right, then majority of African leaders here don't make the mark, because the question we ask would be, what's your general assessment? And if I have to ask you the hard question, then I would say, put a number on them, rank them from 1 to 10. Tell me which African leader currently who passes even half the mark of good leadership.
Well, apart from Rwanda, the rest, I think that they need to do more. They need to do more.
Okay.
I'm talking about quality leadership. They need to do more. I'm not saying they've not done enough, because you have multiplicity of problems in Africa too. Africa has some unique problems. Ghana, for instance, you have only 2 cities, Accra and Kumasi, that gives 60% of the revenue to the government. So the government is limited in terms of revenue raising. But this is what they can do. You have the masons, the artisans, and all. 65% are in the informal sector. And when they work for you, how do we pay them? Cash, right? So where do you get the 17.5% money, taxes that you can take? So let's make all payment electronic, so that as soon as you are paying them, they're also paying their taxes. That is the way we can raise revenue to help ourselves. Because without revenue, our government will keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. Who pays the money? Our great-great-grandchildren. And you don't want to leave them that kind of huge debt.
Okay, thank you very much. And I move to the next question. I don't know, Ivan, did you have something?
I just wanted to be a bit controversial by asking Prof.
Go ahead.
The floor is yours.
If you pick out Paul Kagame of Rwanda, there's also been reports that, and I would immediately say that he probably would pass the test of, I would say, excellence and integrity, but I'm not too sure of respect and patience. He's been accused of human rights abuse here and there. And so on what basis, again, do we feel that if we define leadership to mean to influence and have those values, then he would also not pass the test of the leadership?
Yes, one of my books, Leadership is Concept Heavy, A Case Against Fragmented Leadership in Evolutionary and Contemporary Leadership. I talk about this, that, a lot of things are hidden in books. And sometimes I express most of my ideas in books. Next month, my 7 leadership book is going to talk about, 7 leadership and stewardship, 7 leadership and wisdom, 7 leadership and change. So I'll pick different constructs and explain how we can use leadership to do that. You need, as a leader, all that you have to do is to be excellent in 2 things, average in the other 2, and then you compete in the other 2. So let's say you pick 6 values. Okay, you pick 2 that this is going to be my strength. I'm excellent here. And then you are average in this, and then you compete in the others. It helps you to do more than those who don't have any values. Of course, people have their own shortcomings. I know human rights issues are there. Yes, he's not tolerating for other dissenting views, but he's focused on building the country. And he also knows that his life is at risk, because most African leaders believe that when they are doing well, the Western nation don't want it to happen. And we know we have history of what has happened to Nkrumah and other people, so they are careful about some of these things. But we talk about perception and aim and other acronyms that I have. If you talk about integrated and coordinated set of commitment, he's there. He is committing to the people to do what is right. So if you go to the place, people, you have police service everywhere. Every 100 meters, you have police service watching. You have the cameras everywhere because he knows that if you don't monitor people, they are not going to do the right thing. So a couple of things is done. And you know, every first Saturday of the month, everybody in Rwanda goes to community work. They clean their gutters, they do, everybody work together. So that is a coordinated effort where you bring in everybody on the table and the leader is leading by example. He also rolls his sleeves and work with them. That is leadership. And when he brings some policies and people talk against it, he quickly withdraws it and bring a new one. So he's doing well, at least by 2 of the values. He is averaging 2, and then he's competing with the rest of the 2. And that should be okay for you to be a good leader.
Just to say before Edmond comes in that I was also a fan of Magafuli, even though he passed away.
He did a good job. One thing I remember him for doing is that he raised $4 billion internally to build a new dam.
True.
And he was able to ban even witchcraft in Tanzania. So these are some of the things that people remember him for. A leader should be bold in taking an action because I said, and I'm going to repeat it, leadership is character in action. And action that you show, people should see your character in it.
Yeah. So thank you very much. I mean, there is one country that also seems to be doing very well when it comes to leadership, and that's Botswana. And they've done this consistently from independence up till now. So this kind of leads us into our next question, because if we want to produce consistent leaders, we also need to understand that at some point, it's the mere or average citizens who will rise up to these positions. But the question here is often the focus is on the leader at the top. What about the followership? Because I just remember you saying that the people decide, and you even said we are a reflection of the people we choose. So what's your take on revolutionizing leadership in the followership and not just focusing on the leader at the top?
Thank you very much. One thing you talked about Botswana. If you look at the corruption perception index all over the world, Botswana has been on top of least corrupt countries in the world. You need to recommend it. That has propelled their leadership up because once you kill corruption in your country, I've been to Botswana at the airport, it is written boldly, we don't accept bribe here. Do you see the character in action now? So your character shows in your leadership. So if I'm a leader, there are a lot of things that I would do. I've seen somebody just wrote that, then we don't have leaders in Ghana. We have leaders in Ghana, right? But their character should show in their leadership because Botswana is one of the least corrupt countries in Africa, and Cape Verde and other places. The reason why it's like that is that they found a way to kill corruption. So the little money that they are able to raise, they can use it for developing their country. The money, and then we spend the money. Okay, and we don't spend it prudently. A way to make either corruption costly or ineffective. We've not killed corruption, and people who are corrupted are still walking free at the streets of Mamobi and Jolu. If that happens, then we have a problem because you make corruption attractive. Those who do the right thing are really not heroes of the country, but those who are able to manipulate their way and have money, I will talk about money issues too. Because everything in our country is money. Every country that makes money lead them is in trouble. Because if you go to any white country, any meeting that you go, you know what they ask first? What's the next big idea? What's the next big idea? So they're always looking for the next big idea because the idea will bring more money. But we are looking for money without thinking about an idea that will bring more money. So we get the money, we chop it, and then we open our arms again to beg for another money. That is our problem. But the followers, leadership, 80% of leadership is followership. So I'm narrowing it down to your question. 80% of leadership is followership. So leaders are just 20%. 80% are followers. How come that the 20% are always able to manipulate the 80%? Because our followers have not been effective. They have not been discerning. They are not voting based on values. They are just voting based on tribes, based on their political parties. So you have somebody who said, I'm NDC for life or MPP for life. It doesn't matter what the party does. They will defend it. Are you helping your leaders or you are hurting them? Yes, you think you might help the leader, but you are hurting yourself and your country. And that is why we don't have critical friends. Yes, if you belong to one political party and you criticize your own political party, people think you're crazy. But you are the best in that political party. Why? Because we need critical friends. If Evans is your friend and you do the wrong thing and Evans don't tell you, does he like you or he dislike you? He's looking at you to hit, the bottom, the dead end of your life. But somebody who will prompt you and say, hey, my friend, where you're going is not right. Let's change this. It helps a lot. So if I'm a leader in another African country, I will sit down every week and ask this question: who are we missing?
Who are we missing?
Are we missing?
So in a way, if I understood you very well, at the beginning, you gave some values. And I think these values, even outside the sphere of leadership, is required in our everyday life. So respect, integrity. In a sense, can one not say we build every citizen to be a leader, but then we have elected leaders? And is that what is a bit missing on the African continent? That we don't build our people with leadership from which they can make good decisions to elect few of them as top of. So now I'm just reconstructing and deconstructing followership because I don't like that
Okay.
term. I don't like that term too. But if that's the case, if you say to me 20% are leaders, 80% are followers,
yes.
What is the requirement of a follower? What's the
A follower has similar qualities as a leader.
Exactly.
In fact, it takes just a single follower to make a leader. Just a single follower can make a leader. I encourage those who are listening to me to go and watch a YouTube video about the shirtless guy dancing. And it's just about 2 minutes of a video. It tells you everything about leadership and followership. It takes just a single person to make a leader. That means without a follower, there's no leader. So if you don't have any follower, you cannot be a leader. You are just hallucinating. And when these followers are picking a leader, they should pick somebody they can emulate, a good role model. But the way we pick our leaders is kind of bizarre. I've talked to a lot of members of parliament and ministers and a whole lot of people when I came here. The perception I'm getting is that they also feel that politicians are endangered. That's what they feel. Politicians are endangered. Now people are supporting their leaders and they don't want to respect them and a whole lot of things, especially social media. And they feel that, well, there's a disjointed perception out there. Who do you blame? Maybe the way they communicate verbally and non-verbally. Maybe the way they do things, they are not able to explain them thoroughly to the people. It could be a lot of factors. But the followers become leaders. So a critical follower who criticizes their leaders that you are doing things wrong, this is what you should do, help you to become a leader. That is why if you look at the history of Africa, those who led demonstrations became our leaders. Why making demonstrators right from the universities, secondary schools, people who were saying, you need the food, will not eat it. People at the universities, those who criticize against University of Cape Coast, I did it. Our grading system, we demonstrated. I remember at Cape Coast when we were demonstrating, I was leading. Before I realized everybody was gone, and I was facing the police and the soldiers alone. People would say, hey, but when they see forces coming, they run away. So followers play a critical role in making sure that the leaders do the right thing. Because it's always lonely at the top. Let me repeat this. If you are a leader, it's always lonely at the top. There are many information that comes to you that is filtered. So let me choose, Nanado as an example. He could be a good leader, great leader, but the people you pick to work with you, the people who you surround yourself, your inner circle, could filter information to you in such a way that before you are aware that I could have done this in the other way, it will be too late for you. Because that's how leadership is. So the followers play a role in making sure that the leaders do the right thing. And that is why you can ignore followership and leadership.
So if you say that, then I think it's also right to say that we teach the values of leadership right from the beginning so that the followers also understand, which will help them in electing who they call their leader. In a sense, if we want to redefine leadership in Africa, do you agree that we have to aggressively teach leadership from the very beginning and teach all the values that come along with it?
Yes. Yes, I think that we teach them from the beginning. We teach our kids, never lie, right? Tell them, don't lie to me, respect your co-students, and we teach the kids. So what happens along the way that it change? I know when we were kids, we asked a lot of questions, right? Mom, why this, that, why this? And because they would tell you, shut up, shut up, shut up all the time, or nobody will mind you, you tend not to ask questions again. And unfortunately, we get to universities where we incubate ideas and we want students to ask questions and nobody will ask questions. Any question, nobody asks a question. Why? Because they think that you will intellectualize their opinion as a professor and think that their question is stupid. But that is not the way it's supposed to be. A professor, any question the student asks is a valid question because it bothers them and should be able to answer them. If you're a parent, any question that your child asks you is a valid question. It might not be important to you, but it is important to that child that you have to answer them. Mm-hmm. We bring the same values into leadership. We built a culture where we worship our leaders. Unfortunately, Africans, we worship our leaders. Yes, if Trump do stupid things, people will tell him this is stupid. You see, in the advanced world, if you're a leader and you do what is wrong, people will point that one to you. There's a process of impeachment. You go through that. In Africa, most of the time, it's lacking in some of the leaders. He does the wrong thing. He will never resign, and the president will never fire him or her. Mm-hmm. What are you doing then? You send a signal that you can do whatever you want. Yeah. So some of these things are what is lacking, and when we fix them, the little things, when we fix them, I think that we can catch up with the rest of the world easily. Mm.
I have a last question, and then I hand it over to Evans. And my question is, how do these three aspects of leadership actually influence each other? And I pick trust in leadership, respect for leadership, and interest in leadership. So in a way, how do these three affect each other?
I think they are all subset of each other. They interrelate in a way. There's a correlation and relationship. But let me also explain for the sake of academic people here that relationship and correlations are different. The fact that A plus B will give you C does not necessarily mean C plus B will give you an A. Mm-hmm. So trust and leadership. A leader is like a ghost. People should be able to see through you. When your yes is your yes, and when your no is your no, people know they cannot come to you with that kind of nonsense or come and lie to you. Because when you find out what happened, they are fired. So that should be clear up front. And once you do that, you are building trust by your character in action. When people will test the waters to see whether when they do the wrong thing, you fire them or not. I've heard a couple of, our minister for agriculture said that he went, let me see the figure that I wrote, $371 million lost on fertilizers in Ghana alone. And the minister said he saw fertilizers at the back of donkeys going to Burkina Faso. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you saw this, I don't know why simple discerning, and people will say that, well, you are discrediting the government. No. You saw fertilizer at the back of donkeys going to Burkina Faso. Mm-hmm. You see an, V8 car with police officers. You could not even stop one donkey. You could not do anything about it, but just to come and tell the people that you saw it, but unfortunately you didn't do anything about that. Mm. Another minister talked about COVID. One unfortunate thing when I see about Africa and integrity and excellence, we have not been able to make any COVID medicine yet. Of course, the protocols are being observed. Advanced countries who did research are giving us more medication. And yet we are buying some, instead of $10 per dose, $19 per dose. That means the person inflated the figures twice, appeared before Parliament, and you said that because I was desperate, that is why I bought it from a middle person. Mm-hmm. What he talks about that. And I think our Parliament, you see, is where we need people of trust, respect, and integrity to be there. Let me give you another example so that people will understand. There is Antwi committee that said that former president's wife has not been treated well. We all know what happened to Dr. Hila Iman's wife. We know even that Nkrumah's wife, It was Champon who gave her a small house. So let's find a way to take care of our first ladies. Perfect. Gave everything to Parliament, and our Parliament voted. So I heard many people talking about the president, the people, and no, Parliament, our parliamentarians who directly represent the people from every constituency voted that, look, we need to pay them salaries and then give them bonuses too, starting from 2017. So we backdate payment of salary, and they also recommended that they should pay them cabinet minister's salary, 22,100 a month. And yet people will talk and talk and talk about some of these things, and then all we heard was, they have refunded the money. So it's going to be allowances. Why can't we formalize it and make it right? And not to pay backdate 5 years back of salaries and allowances. So we don't solve problems. It's like Redefining Pansam. Talk and talk and talk and talk about issues, but the action, the permanent solution that will fix that problem, we don't bring it there. As we speak now, those kind of Sakawa and money rituals, and it raised its ugly head, right? We all heard about that. What has happened to it? That is Africa for you. People talk about issues, less action on that. And because of that, the problems subside a little bit, and then raise its ugly head again, and it becomes more explosive than before. We should begin to fix problems based on the trust. The second one, you talk about respect. I want my children to respect me. And because of that, I respect them. So when they ask me every question, I will answer. Whether it's important to me or not, I will answer, right? And when you do that, you earn their respect. The leaders will earn the youth respect when they respond to their questions. Because there are many questions. The pain on the street. Have you heard a song of, what is the name of this guy? Black something. Sharif. Is it something Sharif?
Yeah, Black Sharif.
Black Sharif. Look at it. The pain on the street. Yes, I've seen the pain on the street. There are these guys who have a little bottle of water bottle, and they have something that they clean the screen of your car. And then you give them, even when you stop them, they will say that, please, I need something to, so you have to give them a CD or something like that. We don't have jobs for the youth. And they have been asking questions, and leaders are not answering to those questions. Once you refuse to do that, you don't earn their respect. Let's say you have a son who comes to you and say, Dad or Mom, I need this or have this problem. And you don't help your son or your daughter to fix that problem. Do you expect that they will respect you? Because it is your responsibility as a parent to help your child fix that problem. The same idea is in leadership. When your people have problems, explain to them why you've not been able to solve it. Tell them what plans you are making. And then when you arrive there, tell them that I told you I would do this, and this is it. It earns you that respect. The interest is where the problem is. Because you asked me about trust, respect, and the interest. That is where the problem is. We have people who only have interest in leadership because they have money. And that is unfortunate.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Because they have also seen that all the people want is money. So I talked to a couple of members of parliament when they told me that, Prof, see, even in your own constituency, they don't care about the knowledge you have. They don't care that you are coming to fix Kofodia and make it one of the best places. All they care is the money you give to delegates. I've heard it from 3 members of parliament. And when I came home, I just bowed down my head and said, God, help me. Because the people think about, oh, when we vote for you, somebody told me that this term is for sale. The term is for sale. They are selling it. Why? Because when they vote for the leaders, they don't see them until the next 4 years. So I'm getting my money now so that when you go and you make yours. But do you know the net pay of a member of parliament in our country? 8,000 Ghana cedi, about $1,200. I make more than $5,000. So why would I stop that to come and do this way? Unless you are called. And the word calling in Greek is voter, the voice you hear. So when you hear the voice, think about somebody like Moses. I have killed somebody. I've killed an Egyptian. I'm running away. And then God called him that, look, I'm sending you back to the place you are running from. And he said, look, I'm not going. Who are you? He said, I'm God of this and God of that. He said, I don't know you. He said, I am the I am. He said, they won't even believe you. And look the process he went through with God until finally he told God that, look, I don't even know how to talk. And he said, I'll bring Aaron to come and help you. When God picks you, you hear a voice. That is why some of us want to come home and help. You hear a voice that go and do your bit to help your country. And I encourage all those in the diaspora, some of you, let's all come home and build our country. Because when the country does well, this is where we come from. Mandela said one thing before he died. He said, home is where Mama lives. This is our home.
Yeah.
And we need to fix it.
So then a last part to that question, because you are hitting on the points and all the nerves actually. But if we connect this trust and this respect, it also culminates into this interest. So many well-meaning Ghanaians are not interested in leadership simply because there is a bad name connected to leadership, especially political leadership. So that's why I was asking if these things relate to each other, and for sure, for some of us, it kills the interest in being a leader, unless, like you said, it's a strong call from God.
Yes. The sad part of it, the sad part of it is that now who caused it? Who caused a situation where even honest people, I've been told many times, somebody told me that, look, you are a professor, you live in America, you have your house, this, why waste your time on this? Because I work as a corporate manager. When I'm working, nobody will come and ask me for money. When I retire, people will still respect me more than an ex-MP. Too much for the people. So why bother yourself to do some of these things? But I don't think that when good people with good values get into politics, they can change things. I'm a positivist. And I know that, yes, we've talked about Kagame. Do you think that if Rwanda had got a different leader, maybe the results would have been different, right? We've seen leaders in Uganda and other places. We know what happened to Papa Dog in Haiti. We know what happened to Idi Amin in Uganda and other places. So we have bad leaders and we have good leaders. My point is that don't say that you're not going to go into politics because of what people will tell you, how people will insult you, or you don't have money. When God calls you, he will give you an Aaron to meet you on your way to speak for you. And when we get good people should not shun away from politics. When you come in there and you are able to make a difference, the people know it. Even my mother, who never attended school, can tell of a good leader from a bad one easily. So it doesn't matter whether the person went to school or did not. When they see a good leader, they can see one. And when they see a bad one, they can see that. Be a leader of difference and make changes or make a difference in our world of differences.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Opoku-Antwi. I see that there are two people here on Zoom who would want to ask questions. I'll come to you, Eric and Nani. I'll bear with us. But let me read some few messages. And if you are just joining us on Facebook, this is SEPSA Talk. And today we are discussing redefining the paradigms of African leadership. And we are hosting Professor Opoku-Antwi. Myself, Evans, and Edmond are hosting this show. So I read a few comments and then some questions, which is more of a follow-up to the last question that Edmond asked about leadership and followership. So one from James says, African leadership needs to be redefined and looked at again. Political leadership, religious leadership, traditional leadership are the main pillars of our development. He goes on to say that disciplinary leadership is key to our African success. But here's a question also from Zoom here from Ethel. Ethel says that, what is the role of the youth who are the next generation leaders, and women have played key roles in shaping the African society? What is their role in the context of redefining Africa's leadership purpose? And then I would end it with AK Mensa and allow you, Prof, to answer. How do we build a mass of right followership to follow right and change the paradigm? So I know you've spoken a lot about this followership thing, but what would be the role of the youth, the role of women, and overall, how do we build a mass of right followership?
Thank you. I think Ralph Waldo Emerson said that for every minute you remain angry, you give up 60 seconds of peace of mind. Very interesting, right? Every 1 minute that you remain angry, you give us 60 seconds of peace of mind. Our youth are angry. Our women are angry. And they should be angry with three things: political leadership, traditional leadership, and religious leadership. That is what the person on Zoom talked about. Politically, people have seen that their leaders are not helping solve their problems. But I've talked to political leaders and they will tell you that our problems are many. And if you have many problems, two things you have to do: set your priorities right and then cut on some of the expenditures. The cars, many cars that we use, we can cut on them. You know, a lot of bonuses and always are the hotels, expensive hotels. You can't borrow money and have professional development at expensive hotels and think that, yeah, you don't borrow money actually to just spend it like that. You borrow money to invest that money so that you can get more returns on that investment. So that is what our political leaders should do, things like they should tell the truth, because everybody wants to tell the truth. People have done this many in the advanced country. Let's say business is collapsing. You call everybody at the workplace and say that we're having challenges. So me, the CEO, I'm going to cut my salary by half because I don't want to fire anybody. So I'm going to cut my salary by half. Who will join me in reducing their salary so that we can all work together? And then you see the results. A lot of people will say that, yeah, I'll take a cut in my salary and still work here because our friends, I've worked here for 16, 20 years. I enjoy working here. What happened? You told them the truth. So when you tell people the truth, Ghanaians are hardworking. I've seen on the streets, the way people work from morning till evening. They're hardworking. Tell them the truth that these are the reasons why we are not having jobs. This is what I'm doing, and have faith in me what I'm going to do. Traditional leaders have also no help. Talk about our lands, how some have sold some of our lands. And what do they use the money for? They build some palace and then buy a car. And most of them, what do they do with the rest of the money? Your guess is as good as mine. So I've lost interest in what our leaders, our traditional leaders do. I think that they can be role models in our little towns and villages. We don't have to worship them. Our problem is that we don't even challenge or question our leaders, which is wrong. So if Nana is wrong, Nana don't want anybody to challenge him because he is the king of the place. It doesn't help for our development. When somebody points the wrong thing in your life to you, that person has given you a gift. Because the person is helping you to change to do the right thing. Now, our religious leaders is a problem. Anywhere you go to, I've been to a couple of churches since I came here. They will ask about money about 5 times before you close. So they've turned the churches into money collecting avenues. That doesn't help. But I'm very positive that had it not been these religious leaders, I think most African countries would have been in shambles. Because of the no hope in the system. They've been working so hard. Some people have finished school, universities for 5 years, and grandma or mom have to give them a little money of 2 cedis, 3 cedis before they can buy porridge to eat. So they go to the churches and the churches give them hope. Well, there's hope. And these kind of hope helps them to live for another day. So I think the churches have been able to do that. They also teach some values at their churches. Unfortunately, the people do not espouse them, in their daily life. That is a problem. So the churches, the religious organizations, and the mosques, the churches, and the traditional leaders are doing their part. But I think that taking money, extorting money from people is a lot. They should make it free, make religion free to people so that they can come and listen to good news of values that can help our society. Now, the youth and the women. The youth have a role to play. I think some of the youth are in politics now. Most of them are in politics now in big positions. We have our Attorney General, 43 years. We now have the Special Prosecutor, 44 years. We have a lot of young people who are in the system now. So if you are 40, you are a youth. Even though some churches will say, even if you are 90 years and you can walk, you are still a youth. So youth can also be defined in a broader spectrum. But all in all, I think that the youth should learn good models. They should first get role models, people who will model them to espouse integrity, respect that I talked about, and then excellence. Because when people do something in this country, even the finishing touches is a problem. Electricians, carpenters, masons, they don't take their time to do things well. What they are looking for is the money you give to them. But excellence of the work, they don't look at that. So the youth should look for that kind of excellence. Make sure that they work diligently hard. There's no shortcut. And then they should stop insulting. Because our values, one of the values I cherish about Africa is that you respect your others and that you don't insult any of them. But most of the youth are resorting into insulting. Maybe they're angry. And that is why I quoted Ralph world medicine, that for every minute you remain angry, you give up 60 seconds of your peace of mind. So they should get that kind of peace of mind, and they should be innovative enough. If you come to America or Europe, or if you go to Asia, these Japanese kids that you are seeing and Chinese kids that you are seeing, they are very innovative. They have some IT ideas, and then the government will help them with some money. Then before you know, they're employing 5 or 10 people in addition to them. And before you realize, there's a software company, a big one, they are opening branches all over the world. Ghana here, if you want quality furniture or quality electrical appliances, you have to go to only Accra or Kumasi. Even the other regional capitals don't have some. We have built everything around Accra and Kumasi. The rest of the regional capitals don't have anything, which is the problem. The women role, I talked to one of the ministers, and he said that a lot of people were vying for the DC and MC position, and the president have resolved to give a chunk of the percentage to women because it's not going to be based on competency, but expediency is also what the president is looking at. I think that's a very laudable idea, because most of these women are very competent. They are well qualified than most of the men who have these political appointments, but because they cannot lobby, because positioning in Africa is all about lobbying and being the good books of the president. We've given the executive so much power that everybody from the IGP, everybody is appointed by the president. And because of that, people have to lobby. And I think that is also another reason why most of our leaders, they are different outside, but when they get the position, they also behave differently. What I've been told is that some send their pictures to Malam, some send it to two people, some have creams on their face that when you see them, you give them positions. And because of that, spiritually, they twist the brains of our leaders. So you see things going on, and the leader cannot say anything. And you wonder, is this the leader we had? Is the president we had? Because when he was not in power, that was a different person. And the reason is that there are a lot of people in Africa who have resorted into using spiritual means to convince the leaders to get many jobs and positions where they are not supposed to be. That's why I always say that we should pray for our leaders. Because in Africa, it's not the physical aspect alone or, the academic qualification. People also use spiritual means to get to where they are. And that somebody talk about mass, of right of followership. If we want to amass right of followership, it's all about training orientation, right from birth. We should
Right. All right.
How to not tell the truth, how to respect everybody. We teach these religious and moral education. We're teaching them, in college. Now they took it out of the curriculum that you cannot teach religious and moral education. I think they are trying to bring it back, but we need to teach values because everything like leadership is taught. And when we learn to respect people and respect them well, when we learn to have integrity and have it well, it's going to be a glue that will build our character. So when our character is in action as leaders, people will see the glow of respect, the glow of listening, the glow of temperament, the glow of integrity in everything that we do as leaders.
Right. Thank you very much. Because of our time, we'll make it a bit snappy. And for those of you who have joined us here via Zoom, please bear with us. We'll allow you the last 5 to 10 minutes to ask your questions. But there's a question here on Zoom. And I must say that the spirituality aspect that you brought was very interesting. And also when you talked about the Chinese kids being innovative and giving the opportunity to learn most technological things, it just brought my mind to one, should I call him social media? He's a sensational Kwesi Chains, the living legends. Those of you who have ever watched some of them, it tells you how far we are. But there's a question here. It says, Prof, it suggests to me there is no leader in Ghana, respectfully, because from your definitions and insights, there is no proper leader in Ghana. If there is, why don't we see leadership in Ghana? And I think this also links to a question I wanted to ask, basically, specifically to Ghana. What's your take on how leadership have addressed some of the issues that have caught media attention? If you want to talk about the fight against Galamsey, vetting of ministers, media freedom, COVID-19 vaccination, a whole lot of them. And if you now link it with what this participant from Zoom is saying, that we do not have any leader in Ghana. First, do we have a leader in Ghana?
Yes, we have many good leaders in Ghana and all countries. We have good leaders. Sometimes it's the culture you build. It's just like if you go to a secondary school, a senior high school, and it says they built a culture of sports. Yes, the sports people who are more popular, but it doesn't mean people don't learn. The others will learn. So the same scenario is transferred into leadership. Yes, you have some leaders who are doing the right thing, but they are not seen because we only revere those who have money and talk loud. Some people are very quiet, they are very introverted, they don't talk much, but they are great leaders and doing their job for country. You talked about proper leaders. Yeah, we are proper leaders. And 3 things we can do. We can ignore our problems with leadership. Yes, we also have bad leadership there. Barbara Kellerman talked about that. We know about Hitler. We know about Papa Doc. Papa Doc was in Haiti. He said he dined with the devil. He was their president. So we've had bad leaders before. We've had those kind of leaders who are not proper leaders. So a bad leader is also a leader. Don't forget. We have bad leaders and then we have good leaders. So we can ignore our problems or we can respond to them emotionally and irrationally or rationally. I believe in one logo of University of Wisconsin in the US, the power of if. If we have good leaders, we can change our world. If we have bad leaders, we cannot change our world. So we have good leaders, but what happened in the media, yes, I've heard a lot of misguided talks. I call it unguided moments where somebody said that they should beat the journalists and all those. I've seen their responses and all those things. I think we should guard the way we say things. Our media should be respected because they are the 4th realm of government. If we don't have the media, we'll never be informed, we'll never be educated, and we'll never be entertained. So these 3 things are 3 constructs that we need from our media: information, education, and then entertainment. The constitution is clear about allowing the media to do their job, to inform the people about what is going on in governance. And then Galamsey, yeah, this is a pity, the way people think about making quick money. You see, the problem is, if you look at our music, is it not about money? Money. Bad things, but security in mind. So people do things, bad things, but because of money, they don't mind. Anybody who built that culture for us has killed the soul of a nation. If you have a country where everybody is chasing money, then you have a problem, because then all ideas will be ignored. All proper channels of having education will be involved. People have money, and before you know, within 3 months, I've been told many times, they will tell you they have their PhD. Nobody knows how they bought it. I have my PhD from China. Within 3 months, they have their certificate and they are getting promotion in their workplaces. Nobody questions them. So the thing, if you have money, you can buy everything. But we know from the advanced world, you live in Germany, I live in America, people who live in Asia and other things, you cannot buy some of these things. You can't buy a certificate. Anybody at all is awarded PhD by, awarded by university. So there are a lot of things that is going on that is not helping us. COVID, the way we've managed it is a problem. Well, the minister said everything when he appeared before Parliament, that he bought the medication, the shots, when he was desperate. What does it tell us? We should begin to build that kind of culture in our country where we do research. Italy did the same, so why can't we do it? You buy the Sputnik or the Pfizer medication or Madonna, that kind of medication, you bring it to your country, break them open, look at the conditions, and the chemicals, how it was made. Can't you make the same chemicals and make it your own? So you buy components about the Pfizer medication, and then before you know, you are doing it on your own. Now Pfizer is saying that they are coming to South Africa to produce the medication for the entire African nation. Do you know the money they are going to get? True. Do you know the money? What about building our own culture and starting to look into research how we can get these COVID medication for ourselves? In that case, you don't have to wait for somebody to bring it to you. But do we know the government has also borrowed money, over $2 million, $200 million of money for COVID? And we keep receiving donations on these things. So we have to think ahead. That is foresight. All right. What we like in leadership, we should be thinking about that. Right, so because our problems, we can respond to them, and then we can resolve them effectively and quickly. I think that resolving our problem effectively and quickly is what we've not done. That is why somebody talked about proper leaders. So properly resolve problems quickly and effectively and with less stress for all those involved.
Okay, I thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Opoku-Antwi. I'll allow you to take over, Edmond, but I just want to read 2 messages from Facebook. Then maybe we would allow the audience here to ask their questions. Then I give the last 1 or 2 questions to Edmond to end the show. So this one from our own AK Mensa says, what's a servant leadership and how can we upskill that in African context? What type of leadership is needed in Africa? I think we can put this to the last question when Edmond comes in. Does morality count in the traits of who a great leadership is? Prof, does morality count? It does,
yes,
right?
morality, all these integrity and excellence are all moral issues.
All right.
Know?
Then
they are all within that you exhibit outside.
Okay, Eric. Eric, can you unmute your microphone? Go ahead with your question, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Eric, originally from Kenya, but I'm joining from South Africa. I have a question to you, Prof. I have liked the conversation we've had. If you look at the demography of Africa, Africa is a young nation made up of youth. So many young people from Africa are interested in joining active or elective politics, but they don't control the large resources like the old guys do. So what are the practical ways of having young people, the youth population of Africa, getting engaged in active or elective positions in politics? Yeah, because you realize that in African politics, it is all about what you have. It is all about how much you can bribe, how much handout you can give. Then the second question you talked was about, you talked of Paul Kagame and the former Tanzanian President Magufuli. Yeah, there's also a very upcoming literature about them being dictators, which is good to some extent. We really need good benevolent dictators for us to really realize the real development that we want to see. But as you realize that power corrupts people, so what are the best ways of ensuring that the citizens are immune against the politicians being corrupt when they have too much power and they have too much control over the people? So thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you very much, Eric, for that beautiful question. These are questions. I will answer them. The first one is the young people. You need a mentor. What I know is that these older folks, Africa has the youngest population in the world. We have 65% of the population below 35 years, which is great. That is why America and Japan and all those places that are looking for younger population to come and help them are looking to Africa for youth. Unfortunately, our youth don't have many things to do. So when you get a leader, a godfather in a political party, that person will mentor you and make sure they push you at the right places. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to pick the exact character of that political leader who's your godfather, but that person is going to connect you, because Africa is all about connection. You need somebody to introduce you to another person to introduce you to another person until you get to the top. And then when they pick you and then you grow up to be the kind of position you get, then you can be a good leader for yourself. So you can be a youth leader in future from within in Africa. Outside, you don't have the money, you don't have the resources that people are looking for. And the handout that you talk about, you don't have that handout. So you give yourself to a leader, you do a lot of dirty work, of course. You have to bow down to them because African leaders want to be worshipped. I'm not talking about Europe or America, I'm talking about Africa. And this is the fact. Our leaders want to be worshipped. So you do them, yes, sir. You do them all those things. Whatever they ask you to do, you do it, and then they mentor you. Eventually, you will get a position you are looking for. And that is where your character should be in action. You should bring it out to show yes, you were looking for the opportunity and now you have it. And this is what you can do to demonstrate to the people that, yes, when given opportunity, you can also do your best. You talk about dictators, that Africa needs some dictators. That's wrong. If you look at our history, we've had 100 generals in Africa, and they stuck more than $100 billion in Swiss accounts. So yeah, we've had dictators, and what have they done for us? Democracy is expensive. That is what I want every youth to understand. If you have military people who use kangaroo courts to try people, that's easy. But if you go to any White House of any African country where the president lives, you have not less than even 1,000 people working there. Democracy is very expensive. And when we nurture our democracy and bring our own tenets, because you need democracy to solve your local problems. Unfortunately for Africa, we picked the presidential system, the parliamentary system from the British or the America, and we brought them and we are practicing them in our country without our local values. But no matter what, we are Africans. In fact, I can live in America for how many African Americans have lived there for over 400 years? Their color has not changed. Their behavior has not changed. They are still African Americans. So no matter what, you're not going to change. And that is why you should make sure that our political leaders who are dictators, if you say so, then you are saying that we need a little bit of dictatorship in the way we do our thing. Not necessarily. Because servant leaders that we talk about is somebody who serves first and leads second, somebody who builds community, somebody who listens. And in doing this, you don't have to be a dictator. You demonstrate for people that this is how it is done. And then they will say, do you think that if a leader rolls his or her sleeves and clean the gutters, the citizens will not pick the pickaxes and the shovels and then clean the gutters? They will. So you show the way, you model the way. That is what leadership is about. It's not about dictatorship, telling people, oh, go pick this, go do that. No, those are not leaders.
But Prof, what would you say, I mean, following up from what Eric said, he talked about benevolent dictatorship. What about that also? I mean, in the case of Kagame and Magufuli, I think they've been described more as more benevolent, you know.
That is why people have criticized them, because dictatorship is dictatorship. Either it's benevolent or not. It's still dictatorship, you know.
All right, so before
people use some words to justify what they are doing, but no, wrong is wrong.
Okay.
Dictatorship is wrong, no matter the word you use as an adjective to qualify.
Sometimes to the African man, wow. Anyway,
okay.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to postpone it.
You're welcome, Eric.
Let's
maybe after Nania or Edmond, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nania.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thanks for that very good insight. And you've answered my question, and also maybe a follow-up. I think you made mention that people here with bright ideas for some time staying here, they should go home. I think it's a good thing. But personally, from my observation, what I've seen is that our leaders and our big men are, sorry to say, are intolerant. They can't tolerate anything. If you suggest something, they think you are against them. And sometimes, sorry to say, the youth, we've at least had engagement with these whites, and you cannot see they have bright ideas. I want to take this thing home. You suggest to a big man, or sorry to say, a leader, and he thinks you are trying to kind of, you are wiser or you are smarter than him. So they are not tolerative. That is what I see. So if you go home with these ideas, they'll tell you, oh, go away with your whatever you think you have. Yeah, that's what I see. So going home, it's a good thing, but what are we going to do? Because if you suggest or you talk to these people, they kind of brush you off. Yeah, and also I think earlier on you made mention of the Gimpa traffic light. Sorry, that's not part of the list, but I happened to that time when those traffic lights was constructed, I was schooling there. So this is what is happening. The traffic lights are operated a solar panel traffic light with batteries beneath the poles. So these guys, if you drive through the switchback route from the T-junction to Legon to the Fiesta Royale, these guys that clean the windscreen over there are very matured guys or strong guys who can do something. And people who stay in those places, West Legon, Hachu, Christian Village, are the guys who are, let's say, they are worth of. They see these guys, they don't mind them. So what they do is that in the evening, they go and take these batteries off. And the whole light doesn't work. That's what's happening at Gimpa.
I see. So how much does it cost to get a security around to take care of those things?
I have, Prof. Sorry,
smart leadership.
I can't
see smart leadership. You talk about two things that quickly I want to. Intolerance, yes. Intolerance is a skill that we learn. And then when you learn to be intolerant, you can also learn to be tolerant. People learn to be intolerant based on their experience, what they've gone through. In fact, research has shown that even our intuition, things that people say that I feel this, and sometimes it happens, is based on our own experiences and knowledge. So it's not accidental. People have become intolerant over time based on what they've gone through. Yes, when you bring something, it's like in the media, when you say something doesn't make sense, people will be intolerant to you. A new song, but when you repeat it time and time again, people begin to sing that same song that they were intolerant about. Think about the Jehovah's Witness people. When they come home, they knock, nobody opens them. They will knock again, nobody opens them. Sometimes they will hit you, tell them you're busy, you're cooking. Well, they will say, can we wait? So no, I'm busy. You'll find all the excuses. One day you give them the chance because they have been very persistent on you. and before you know, you are part of them.
Mm.
So yes, people will be intolerant, but persistency of your words and how consistent you are with your truth will help them to be more tolerant towards you.
Mm. Thank you very much. Our time is really fast spent, but a few messages, and Prof, please be brief for us. Harriet Enyunam says, you are making a lot of sense. Thanks so much. Kenneth Bansa says, Prof, you might want to expand your statement on Galamsey relative to everyone chasing money. A bit clarity on the subject might be helpful. Douglas Dog also says, what can ensure that the youth today complaining about bad leadership will not turn into one when he gets the leadership position tomorrow? Interesting.
Yes, the first thing that I've met some students here, and I told them that I'm afraid you might also grow up to be like the same people that you are criticizing, because that has been the norm. It's like when they cross the carpet to be leaders, they behave differently from when they were students. That is unfortunate. Maybe the culture they built out there that when you join us, you have to behave in this way. But I think that we can always have an outlier. In every rule, there's there's an exception. Somebody who will go there and say that, no, I've come to change things. And I believe strongly that some of us, when we get opportunity, we can bring the change that the people desire. Because the people who are crying for good leaders. And sometimes say that, is this the leader we voted for, right? You hear them a lot. Because when they were not in power, they were different. What come to them when they get into power that they change so drastically? And maybe because of the pressures, maybe because of a whole lot of things. Maybe we all put our problems on them and then we ignore ours. One thing I've observed is that the people should also do more. Like I'm saying, yes, I've been told that some leaders are involved, but there are also some citizens involved. The politics is being done. I've heard a political party say that, well, when we come to power, we allow you to do the galamsey. If you have the strength, we allow you to do it. If you do that, you empower the people. Go to our streets. Go to see our water land. I have many friends at the eastern part of Accra from Sawam Park coming who are using the River Densu. Already the River Densu have to be treated 3 times before we could drink it. And now because of lead and a whole lot of things in them, because of galamsey, we have a problem. So if you open your pipeline, the water that comes is like Milo. It's that dirty. But yet people so you can't use the same water to cook. What you have to do is to go buy water to come and cook your food. What are we doing to ourselves? So there will be a time, maybe we have to import water from other countries because we don't have water to drink again. Do we realize the import of galamsey that we are doing to ourselves? We cannot use the same water to even water, our food, like cabbage and all those things. We cannot water them. Let alone how we can use the water to drink. So and water is life. 3 things you cannot do in any advanced country, especially America. You cannot kill any animal. You cannot go to the water bodies unless you are allowed to. And that is why all our water are clear. And then you cannot cut any tree. So trees will grow old and then they will fall down and the forestry people will come and cut and take it out. You can never cut a tree in America. You can never touch any animal, and then you can never touch any water bodies. And that's how you preserve those things. If we make these laws in Africa, any of the African countries, it is going to help us. Animals also enjoy life as we do. So don't touch any animal, don't kill any animal.
Without a license, right?
Unless you have the license, so we have the season that people can go hunting. Just 1 week. Kill any animal that you want. But I know in Africa, if you allow 1 week for people to but there it's still just a deer or an animal you can come and eat. So you can't touch any animal, you can't cut any tree, you can never touch any water bodies. That is how they preserve all their natural flora and the fauna. So we have to do that to take care of our water bodies and our system. We are gradually taking our environment away. We say that
end with us.
Dies, the last man also dies. We're cutting all our trees, we're killing all other animals. We are even using poison to kill animals and sell them on the roadside for us to eat. I don't know what we're doing to ourselves. It's so sad. But some of we can come and teach our people. Change is a gradual process. I teach change theory, and always I begin by saying that the only person who needs a change is a wet baby. And people start crying, laughing. A wet baby cries because they need a change. Apart from that, change is difficult. You buy a new iPhone, which is better than the old one. But guess what? Trying to put all the old information into the new one will make you think twice that this is difficult. I should have used the old phone. Change is hard. But we don't have any choice apart from changing because we are competing with the rest of the world. We cannot have open borders and struggle with our hospitals and our schools and everything when just 7 hours away in England or in Belgium or in Germany or 10 hours away in New York is a different world. We need to catch up and double our steps. And in doing that, we have to change our attitude, both leaders and followers. We have to make sure that we do the right thing. We have to make sure that we are tolerant. We have to make sure that if you're a leader, you are just there to serve. After your term, you are gone. So you write your own history. Think about how history is going to judge you. And then maybe begin to write your own memoir.
Thank you very much. I mean, I wish that would be your concluding statement. But I have two other questions here. I don't know if I can be provocative since the direction of the conversation has geared towards like concluding. But there were two things that you said in your earlier submissions that really attracted our attention and we would like to know more. One, you said young...
The line was...
Oh, sorry. So I said I have two more questions for you. One, you said young people, they should worship the leaders because our leaders want to be worshipped. And my question is that not part of the problem? Because bootlicking makes you sell your soul. If you worship somebody, you sell your soul. And then at the end, you become subservient to them. And that's the reason why we also complain that people say something and then they come into leadership and they do something different. Why? Because the good guy, maybe my thinking, might have ended up due to worshiping the top guys to be corrupted by them. So how do you bring your uniqueness out if as a young person you are supposed to worship somebody, and we know worshiping somebody is also subjecting your values to theirs? Brief response, if you can answer this for us in 1 minute. Ooh, well, I think we just lost Prof.
Yes, we lost Prof, but
we lost Prof, but the question I was trying to put to Prof is how to be subservient and worship leaders and at the same time bring your strength and your uniqueness as a young person, the values that's contradictory to what these leaders we know are practicing. I hope when we get Prof back, he can help us answer these questions. We have two more questions for Prof, and I don't know if we should ask our producer. Producer, should we still wait for you to reconnect, Prof?
If not, I also agree with you when you said that his last statement, looked more like a concluding remark where he gave, different ways with which we could redefine paradigms of African leadership.
Or else we will give this time to our audience if you have another question or a comment to put through.
If people have, there's one question here, I'll just read. Prof, thanks. From Eric, how would you deal with corrupt leaders in government institutions should you rise to the position of a president, just in case? Well, this was more specific to Prof, but if I would rise to become a Edmond, what would you do if you would be a president, just in case? How would you deal with corrupt leaders in your government?
Listening to what Prof said and also reminiscing a lot on what is happening in African countries, I think we need a strategy to deal with corruption. It's not just the short-time, one-time strategy, because that would not work. So I do believe that many of these African leaders, they were smart at some point, they were effective at some point, but the thing that we keep missing is that you don't lead alone. You need a pack, you need a theme, you need a group of people who share the same values and the same mindset with you to lead. So I sometimes feel for our leaders, and I feel it's frustrating to be up there and not be able to implement the things you really have in mind just because you don't have the people to move along with. So, but then at the end, we push the blame on the person on top. So what I would do as a president is to invest a lot of money in training everybody to build these latent leadership qualities in them, because we cannot solve corruption if we look at a few people. My problem with, for example, Ghanaians is we shift our attention to less than 500 people in government who are corrupt, fine. But if you look down to the very single element of our country, corruption is pervasive.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. So even if we get 500 people who are diligent, people of integrity, we still need to change the more than 29 million people who will take bribe and engage in corrupt practices in every single opportunity that they get. So my last question to Prof would have been, if I give him $1 billion, how would he solve this problem? But since Prof is not there, I think we can reserve it for him.
Maybe I would allow Albert K. Mensah to Prof is back, so you can ask him to conclude because of our time.
Yeah.
Maybe I think a concluding remark from Prof would do, even though Prof, we're enjoying ourselves whilst we're trying to bring you back.
You see the internet problem in Africa?
Yeah.
We can understand.
The question about how, we'll bring in Prof later, the question about how we would have dealt with corrupt officials in your government. And I am right, if I turn a president, I will cut off extravagance, think of the ordinary human, think like them and be like the people. Interesting. Edmund, ask Prof.
For the sake of time, I have just one last question for you. How would you change leadership with a grant of $1 million?
A grant of $1 million in Ghana, you cut all the...
Yes, your strategy for changing, redefining the paradigms of leadership in Ghana.
I will not. So you telling me if I was a president, what I would do? Because that's how
if you had the power, let's say, I just converted the power into money.
Yes, what to do is very simple. What I would do is that I work on attitude. We have to change our attitude that you don't have to be rich to enjoy life. So orient the people about being grateful for what you have. We have a country, a beautiful country. There's nothing wrong with our weather. There's nothing wrong with our soil. There's nothing wrong with our environment. All we need is a exemplary leadership. So I'm going to lead by example, cut all extravagance, lead simple life. You know, it's madness to think about, boast about having 10 houses and 5 cars and all those things. That's not necessary. Teach people how to be modest, because there's beauty in modesty. And then cut all the extra expenditures that we have. I will fix our roads, making sure that the roads are the best. We can have 4 lanes here, 4 lanes there, to Kumasi 8 lanes. All regional capitals, I will link them. So when I build a good road network that will last for the next 30 years, that's a good investment. You don't have to build them, bad roads and then you'll be repairing them every year. That's not how you build a country. If you borrow money and you are using that grant to build roads, build it well. Make sure you build it very well. I'll also make sure that I get my priorities right. Education is key, has been part of every solution. Hospitals, make sure that we have quality hospitals, and then we build some regional and district hospitals so that people can have access to health. For the white man, everything is about your health and life. And we should begin to think that way, that it's going to help us. We also make sure that private sector individuals are given the help to establish organizations and then work to employ our people. So I will pave the way for the private sector to work. Any tax incentive that I have to give them, any subsidy that I have to give them to provide jobs for our people. Because if people have jobs, they can buy their own food to eat. They can pay school fees. They can do everything for themselves. And then make sure that we are secure as a nation. The crime rate is something else. And why can't you use the model that America is using for their electricity? They use 120 volts. We use 240. So electricity is expensive here. We're struggling with doing so. Elsewhere in America, they are using half of the electricity we use. And we are poorer than them. Why can't we adopt the same and then use energy that uses the same voltage as Americans are using, 150 voltage, instead of 240? So we use double than what America, the richest country in the world, is using. So there are a lot of things we can learn from the advanced world to make our lives simpler and easier for us. Because our soil is great. We can plant our own food, we can eat our own food, trade among ourselves in Africa, get anything we want in other African countries, and make our country great.
Thank you very much, Prof. And thank you very much, listeners, for joining us today. Evans, you have last word, or I can just conclude?
You can, Edmond, go ahead.
So it's a great opportunity to hear you, Prof. We really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your insight with us. What I have learned from this conversation is that a leader need to have the zeal to serve. And deriving from the word serve means you are coming as a servant, which means you're adapting a servanthood leadership that's more closer to the people and solving the problems of the people. And in doing that, it has to be value filled. And what are those values? Respect, integrity, and trust, you know. And at the end, if Africa can reimagine, or if we, the young people who are the future of this continent, can reimagine how we see leadership, then definitely we are going to transform our continent. Thank you once again, and thank you to our viewers. We meet you next week here as we bring you another interesting episode of SEPSA Talk, and we advocate, or we also ask that you look at our YouTube page where we've posted earlier videos. Please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube platform and also subscribe to our Facebook platforms so that you get updates when we are starting our program. Thank you once again for listening, and see you again next week.
Thank you.